Checked it at under 30 yards rushing. Not a good fantasy play today. But Buffalo's impressing, aren't they, and getting into that. They've got the longest playoff drought in the NFL. They haven't made it since the 1999 season. But at the very least, Charles, they're going to be in the mix in late November, early December, and they haven't even been that for a long, long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Sammy Watkins, their franchise wide receiver, hasn't been available to them. But as you say that, LaShawn McCoy is out with a hamstring injury. Hey, who saw that coming? Because he was suffering early. They were wondering whether they should bring him back, but he is out with a hamstring injury. So that is potentially why his production isn't great in this particular game. But, I mean, with Buffalo winning by 17 points to 14, Miami aren't out of this. And maybe, I know we're going to talk about Buffalo, but just a note, and Rob, I'm sure will be keen to talk about this as well, the reduction of Jay Ajayi. Now, Miami is a franchise that, you know, is just all at sea, or it has been all at sea. Front office, back office, the players, the team, the coaches, is all. So leave it to a Brit to sort them out. That's what I say. And last week he rushed for 204 yards on 25 carries against Pittsburgh Steelers. Today, Jay Ajayi, 22 carries, 142 yards and a touchdown. And I just wonder if they really have found the guy that they drafted out of Boise State, that power running back. And it seems like he's doing the job for the Miami Dolphins. But it's only a 3-point game in Buffalo. But I agree, I didn't see it coming, Greg. When they fired Greg Roman, Rex Ryan was all over the place being Rex, but no way did I see them winning 4 straight and getting themselves in the mix. Not only in the AFC East, but for a wild card spot as well. And I have to back you up. There was no positivity from me or you coming out of Buffalo. And I think that was fairly apparent on social media.
Charles, great timing on the Ajayi mention, by the way, though. He's just run for 53 yards. They were at the 1-yard line, Miami, so they were trying to avoid a safety. He's just run for 53 yards. He's up to 195 yards for the day. Huge run from Ajayi.
And what about that, Rob? It's very much found money. This wasn't a great college prospect, and as we said, running backs have sort of become unpopular to draft incredibly high, let alone in the 4th or 5th round. He was a 5th-round pick out of Boise State, a good school that wins a lot for people who don't follow college football, but not a real national championship contender as they may have been 7-8 years ago. So very much a quiet drafting by the Miami Dolphins there for a UK-born player, but it's found money for them, isn't it? And one of the more impressive offensive rookies in any round, obviously, to step in and play in the NFL this year so far. Now 195 yards on the ground, so barring something totally bizarre, not too many Dolphins running backs ever have had 200-yard-plus days. I know that for a fact. So Ajayi is going to be very much talked about in the weeks to come, given this performance today.
Yeah, and what a run it was. I've just seen a replay. I mean, he had a little duke to get away from one tackle and just broke through 2 more and got up to halfway. It was a really impressive run. And I remember him because he was a really sort of trendy player to talk about for people who follow the draft religiously. A lot of people liked him and thought that he was going to go sort of in that 2nd and 3rd round range. But before the draft, did not work out particularly well. You know, the teams don't need many reasons to knock a running back down their draft board, because it is a position where teams have generally found value. And that's what happened to Jay Ajayi. Now, he's been in the doghouse a little bit with Miami. He started the year. I don't think he made the trip to Seattle because he wasn't happy with his playing time. It looked as if they were going to go with Arian Foster to start the year, but he's been generally ineffective and not healthy. And it's almost like they were forced to go to him because they just had no running game in Miami at all. They turn it over to him, and ever since he took over the starting role, he has just been fantastic. One of the best running backs in the NFL this year so far.
It's not many who are going to be a back-to-back 200-yard games, are there?
Not in the league. I couldn't name one, to be perfectly honest. It's something that'd be a real statistical oddity. We'll see where he is. We'll try and update where he is in terms of the entire NFL for rushing leaders. But yeah, 100-yard games are even more rare than they were 10, 12 years ago. That's for sure. Charles Dagnall, Rob Staten, Greg Brady, all with you. Top of the hour coming up. We go to Atlanta, Georgia, where the 4-2 Falcons, led by quarterback Matt Ryan, will play San Diego. Phillip Rivers still the quarterback there, has been for 12 seasons now. And the Chargers, a lot of heartbreaking losses so far this year, 3 in particular by 4 points or less. So we'll find out really today if they're a better team than that 2-4 record. The other games to come that we'll keep you posted on, the New England Patriots against the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh, and Tampa Bay at San Francisco. The very late game tonight is Seattle in Arizona. Let's just update you on what's happened so far today at Twickenham Stadium. The New York Giants go to 4-3 on the season. They drop the Los Angeles Rams to 3-4. The Giants get a late Rashad Jennings touchdown run from 5 yards out, win that game 17-10. Case Keenum threw 4 interceptions for the LA Rams, who've now lost 3 straight. Ongoing, the game closest to finishing is in Detroit, but maybe there's overtime involved. Detroit leading Washington 13-10 with just over 8 minutes to go in that game, and the Lions have the football. The Chiefs, a comfy 10-point lead over New Orleans. That game is in Kansas City. 9:20 to go in that contest. The Eagles look safe for the time being against Minnesota and their quarterback Sam Bradford. The Vikings are the last unbeaten team in the NFL. So I guess tomorrow is when Larry Zonka, Bob Greasy, and the rest of the Dolphins pop that champagne, which they've been doing every year since 1973. That's a lot of champagne to consume in one lifetime. I'll put it that way. And they finally did it at the Super Bowl when the New England Patriots lost. The Patriots were the only other team to go through the regular season unbeaten. Then they went 18-0 all the way to Glendale, Arizona, where they lost that famous Super Bowl the first time around with David Tyree catch to the New York Giants. But that's history. Let's deal with the present. Eagles over the Vikings 18-3, as mentioned, late in the third quarter. The Bills lead the aforementioned Dolphins 17-14. 10 minutes to go in that one. Buffalo with the football. Colts over Titans. Indianapolis on the road at Tennessee. They lead that 20-13. That third quarter is just coming to an end. Bengals a 14-point lead, 31-17 over the Cleveland Browns. And I guess we sort of call it a surprise, though the Ravens have got a lot more inconsistent lately, gentlemen. But the New York Jets with Geno Smith starting, although Ryan Fitzpatrick's made his way into this game at various times. The Jets 1-5, maybe a contender, many thought before today, to swipe one of those very top draft picks next April in Philadelphia. At 1-5, taking on a 3-3 Ravens team who just seem on the swoon right now. There's not much they're doing right. And Joe Flacco missed some practices earlier in the week with injury. But right now, it's Jets 24, Ravens 16. And all the attention on the Jets for how bad they've been. That would be a pretty impressive victory, all told, if they can beat what would look to be a great Baltimore team early in the season that we'd all underestimated. But they're certainly thudding back down to earth, a potential 4th straight loss, but it's not over yet.
The way I've seen this game, I've seen quite a lot of the highlights of this game. Numerous things come out. Remember, Baltimore got rid of their offensive coordinator, the quarterback whisperer, Mark Trestman, and they very strange offensively in the last couple of weeks, especially in that game against Oakland, which they managed to lose at home. And they brought in Martin Morningweg, who's former Detroit Lions head coach, and where they could turn things around. Interestingly, Terrence West today, he's got 8 carries for just 10 yards. They've got no rushing game at all against that fearsome front 4 of the New York Jets. Terrence West was actually more productive, I've got to say, under Mark Trestman than he was, but he just never got used. That was the weird thing. He would average sort of 6 or 7 yards a carry, and then they would only give him around 8 or 9 carries a game. Joe Flacco with a couple of interceptions, and the tackling on defense is so un-Baltimore-like. I don't know if that's actually a phrase I can use, but I'm going to use it anyway. Historically, they've been, even if they've not had the most, if they've not been a top defense, the basics have been right. Their tackling today has been god-awful. But also, Quincy Enunwa, one of my favourite players in the NFL this season, took a pitch and catch from Geno Smith, and he took it to the house and just burnt the secondary, and that's really what kick-started the New York Jets. But for Geno Smith out with a concussion, Ryan Fitzpatrick coming in, and Baltimore have just looked sad. I don't know if that's the right phrase here, but they just look, like they've just got nothing to look forward to. This is a side that started 3-0.
Another team, Rob, that's really struggled since, we talked about the Giants struggling since their Super Bowl win against New England. The very next season, Baltimore beats Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco, and they've had lots of turmoil since then. The quarterback's the same, the coach is the same in John Harbaugh. I mentioned Joe Flacco. They had obviously the tremendous controversy surrounding Ray Rice in the 2014 season, but they're really struggling to find consistency, and in a division where they've really been usurped by both Pittsburgh and clearly Cincinnati. Though the Bengals don't have that playoff success, their argument would be, well, at least we make the playoffs. It's been a struggle for Baltimore the last few seasons.
Yeah, and I think Greg made a great point. The Mark Trestman hire was a strange one. I mean, they were going through offensive coordinators a lot because their guys were getting picked off for head coaching jobs. I mean, Gary Kubiak used to be the offensive coordinator there, then went to Denver and won a Super Bowl. Mark Trestman's identity, his style of offense just did